Why your brain sees faces in everyday objects. Surprising science of pareidolia. Have you ever noticed how our brains can spot faces in the most unlikely places? This captivating phenomenon known as face pareidolia describes our tendency to perceive human-like features in everyday objects. A fascinating new study conducted by the University of Surrey sheds light on why this happens and how it could potentially be leveraged by marketers to enhance advertising strategies. Published in the journal Eye Perception, the research delves into the contrasting ways our attention is captured by both averted gazes, when a person's eyes are directed away from another's face, and by pareidolia, where we see faces in inanimate items. To explore this, the researchers executed a series of 4 experiments involving 54 participants, focusing on how their attention shifted in response to different gaze cues. The outcomes revealed that individuals consistently redirected their focus according to both types of stimuli, averted gazes and the face-like configurations provided by pareidolia. However, it was found that the mechanisms prompting our attention in these scenarios operate quite differently. In the case of averted gazes, we are instinctively drawn to specific features, particularly the eyes of the person looking away. In contrast, when it comes to pareidolia, our attention shifts to the overall structure of the imagined faces, engaging us on a different level and often producing a much stronger response. Dr. D. Fu, a lecturer in cognitive neuroscience at the University of Surrey, explains, "Our research indicates that both actual averted gazes and perceived faces in objects can influence our line of sight. Nevertheless, they do so using distinct pathways. With real faces, we focus on individual characteristics, like the direction of eye movement. In contrast, when dealing with face-like shapes, we analyze their overall composition and the placement of their guy-like features, which triggers a more intense reaction." What makes these findings particularly intriguing is that they may have far-reaching implications beyond just our cognitive understanding of visual stimuli. Dr. Fu also points out potential practical applications in fields like marketing. He suggests that advertisers could design products featuring face-like arrangements, especially ones with noticeable eye-like elements, thus captivating consumer attention and creating lasting impressions of their offerings. But here's where it gets controversial. Can manipulating visual perception really influence buying behavior? Or does it merely cater to our innate tendencies to make sense of the world around us? This raises thought-provoking questions. Do you believe that seeing faces in objects is merely a quirk of human perception, or something that can be strategically employed in everyday marketing? Share your thoughts in the comments. Pareidolia, uncovering the science behind seeing faces everywhere. Have you ever looked up at the sky and suddenly saw a face in the clouds? Maybe a profile of a girl, or even a figure holding a sword. Or perhaps you've glimpsed the shape of a beloved pet that has long since passed away. This intriguing phenomenon is known as pareidolia, a fascinating quirk of the human mind where we tend to recognize familiar patterns, especially faces in random or unrelated objects. Most of us have experienced pareidolia at some point, even if we didn't realize it by name. For example, about a decade ago, a woman in India named Sheila Antony noticed an image resembling Christ after she accidentally burned a piece of roti. She took the burnt bread to her local priest, who called it a miracle. Word spread quickly, and soon thousands of people flocked to her house, eager to see the supposed divine face. This incident happened in Bangalore in 2002 and became a local sensation. But this isn't an isolated story. In 2004, a woman in Florida claimed she saw the Virgin Mary's face on a grilled cheese sandwich. She even sold the sandwich on eBay for a staggering $28,000. Such stories highlight how powerful and widespread pareidolia can be. People often see divine or supernatural images in everyday objects. Similarly, during major fires or explosions, many individuals report seeing faces, sometimes demonic, sometimes angelic, in the smoke or flames. It's almost as if our minds are wired to find faces everywhere, even in chaos. This tendency is so ingrained that it's easy to imagine Harry Potter's godfather, Sirius Black, communicating with Harry through the fireplace in Gryffindor Tower. An example of how our brains interpret patterns as faces or figures, even when none are truly present. Some skeptics might dismiss these as mere coincidences or suggest that Harry was simply imagining things. However, scientists explain pareidolia as a natural result of how our brains process information. Our minds are constantly analyzing visual stimuli, lines, shapes, colors, and trying to make sense of them. The fusiform gyrus, a part of the temporal lobe in our brain, is specifically involved in facial recognition. This ability likely evolved because recognizing friends, foes, or potential threats quickly was crucial for survival. A fun example in pareidolia can be seen in the images captured by NASA's Mars orbiters. Over the years, they've spotted numerous heart-shaped formations on the Martian surface. Some are impact craters, others are eroded rocks, but many appear almost perfectly shaped by chance. Most of these formations result from volcanic activity, meteor impacts, wind erosion, or sublimation of dry ice. For instance, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter photographed a well-known heart-shaped crater, believed to have formed from an oblique impact with erosion and seasonal frost, further shaping its appearance. But here's where it gets controversial. These shapes are just coincidences, not signs of extraterrestrial messages or divine intervention. We also tend to see faces in everyday objects, especially in the front of cars. The placement of headlights, which resemble eyes, grills, mouths, and bumpers' expressions creates a face-like appearance that our brains readily recognize. This is one reason why Pixar's animated movies, like Cars, resonate so deeply. They tap into our subconscious tendency to anthropomorphize objects, making them emotionally relatable. The phenomenon of pareidolia has a wide range of applications, from art and entertainment to psychological studies. So next time you spot a face in a tree, a cloud that looks like a dog, or even Jesus on your toast, you'll know exactly what to call it. And this is the part most people miss. Pareidolia isn't just a quirky trick of the mind. It reveals how our brains are wired to find meaning and familiarity in the chaos of the world around us. Do you agree that this tendency is a gift that helps us connect? Or do you think it sometimes leads us astray? Share your thoughts in the comments and join the conversation. Faces everywhere. The science behind face pareidolia. Our brains have a peculiar talent. We can discover faces almost anywhere we look. Have you ever glanced at the front of a car and thought its headlights looked like eyes staring back at you? Maybe a pattern on your toast or a knot in a wooden door suddenly seemed to grin or frown. This widespread phenomenon, called face pareidolia, shows how eagerly our minds are wired to recognize faces, even where they don't truly exist. But here's where it gets really fascinating. Scientists are starting to reveal why we're so captivated by these imagined faces and how this tendency could be harnessed in ways you might not expect. A recent study from the University of Surrey, published in the journal Eye Perception, dives into the mysterious workings behind this natural impulse. The researchers wanted to understand precisely how our attention is drawn both by genuinely averted gazes when someone purposely looks away from us, and by those eerily familiar face-like shapes found in objects all around us. Their experiments compared what happens in our brains when we see a real person look away versus when we encounter a seemingly watchful but inanimate face in the environment. The team designed a series of 4 gaze cueing tasks, enlisting 54 participants to take part. These tests measured how easily a person's thoughts or focus could be steered by the orientation of another gaze, be it human or imagined. The results were eye-opening. People didn't just react to the shift in real human gaze. Their attention was just as quickly drawn by the appearance of human-like faces in non-human objects. Just think about how much more alert you become when you sense a pair of eyes, even if they belong to a cartoon character or a misaligned electrical socket. And this is the part most people miss. Although both real and invented faces direct our focus, the way they do it is surprisingly different. When another person looks away, our brains are laser focused on their eyes, the exact direction, the subtle movements, the intent behind the gaze. But when it comes to pareidolia, those face-like figures our minds conjure up from random shapes, we seem to scan the entire face form as one whole unit. Our brains quickly make sense of the arrangement as a face, not just the eye region, sparking even more intense attention. Dr. D. Fu, a lecturer in cognitive neuroscience who led the research, explains, our work suggests that both genuine averted gazes and face-like shapes can guide where people look, but they activate different mental processes. When it's a real face, we zero in on features like the eyes themselves. With face-like objects, though, we use the overall layout, the eyes and other face parts that seem to demand our notice, often even more strongly. To make this clearer, imagine trying to ignore a stylized smiley face on a billboard versus an actual person glancing sideways. Which grabs your focus first, and why? Here's the controversial twist. What if marketers and advertisers start using this insight? Dr. Fu suggests these findings could transform advertising practices. Picture a world where your attention is subtly steered by products featuring designs that mimic facial features. A pair of vivid dots arranged like eyes, for example, on a cereal box or soda can. Research like this hints that we could be more likely to remember or even trust a brand just because our brains are hardwired to notice anything remotely face-like. Is it clever design or psychological manipulation? This opens up a broader debate. Should companies intentionally design their products to lure our brains in this subconscious way? Is it just smart branding, or could it cross an ethical line? Would you feel differently about a product if you knew it was designed specifically to catch your eye by pretending to have a face? We invite you to join the conversation. Do you see these developments as a harmless evolution in advertising, or do they leave you wary? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Have you noticed yourself drawn to face-like images in your daily life? Do you think this scientific discovery could or should change the way companies approach us as consumers? For anyone interested in diving deeper, the full study is available in Eye Perception 2025 with DOI 10.1177 204166952 5513521. The science of seeing faces everywhere remains an open and surprisingly contentious question. What's your take?